about capabilities, building all your hopes and dreams. Talk about possibilities. It ain't rocket surgery, but maybe it is. Come on down, we're gonna sit around and get into your business. 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 Get into your business.
Hey, welcome back to the Small Business Miracles podcast. My name is Jeff Randolph. I am here. This is not a normal show. I'm here with Theo. Theo, hey, welcome.
Jeff, thanks for having me on, man.
Having you on. You're always behind the. You're like running most of this stuff. You're here.
I get to talk today.
You get to talk today. We're going to talk, and the idea behind this one is, you know, we've done like 43 episodes in 2024, right? We've put out a good amount of content.
Wow. And I haven't been counting, so.
Well, no, it's you. I'm not giving you time to count. You get busy editing these podcasts.
43, cool, man.
We've had a great time. It's a lot. We wanted to take a look back and kind of reflect on some of the lessons learned, some of the great guests we've had on the show, and there's no better way to do that than a clip show.
Yeah.
You have to. The clip show is like the thing you do.
Oh.
And I think it gives us the ability to highlight, you know, all of the hilarious things we've heard so far.
A lot of fun.
But also some of the great wisdom from entrepreneurs and everything. Right. It feels like I can't move forward unless I talk about my favorite clip show of all time.
Okay.
And my favorite clip show of all time, Family Guy.
Oh.
Family Guy's 100th episode.
Okay.
Here's what they did, because they had been canceled like halfway through that run. So one station canceled them, another one picks them up. And so they finally get to 100 episodes. Didn't think they would eventually make it there. Didn't look like they would for a while. But to do this 100th episode clip show,
right.
It's a clip show. But they had this kind of narrative going through there where Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, is talking to the audience, you know, directly, but then says, "We wanted to know what America thinks about Family Guy, and so we decided to ask them." And they do mall intercept surveys, like where they're getting people just shopping in the mall,
right,
and bring them into the room, show them an episode of Family Guy, and then Seth MacFarlane himself, the creator of Family Guy, sits down across from just regular people who are shopping in the mall. He does not introduce himself as Seth MacFarlane, creator of Family Guy, and the guy who does the voices for X number of characters.
Right.
He just starts talking to them. And like to a person, everyone there hates that show. Like, and he's talking to them, and the lady's going, "Oh, the voice of the dog, is that David Hyde Pierce?" And it's Seth MacFarlane. And he goes, "It is David Hyde Pierce." And she goes, "Oh, that's so disappointing. I wish he wouldn't have been involved in something so bad."
Brutal.
And like the best clip show. They have no idea who it is.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's get into it, shall we?
I'm going to have to tune into that for inspiration, because it has to be a very interesting show.
It's hilarious. And it's, good clips from Family Guy too, which is always great. Well, let's talk about the podcast, and let's talk about let's get into the actual clips and stuff. Before we do, let's talk about the award. We actually won an award. We won a PRSA Prism Award for this podcast, and I want to say we are humbled by that. That is spectacular.
Definitely.
We had a great time bringing attention to the businesses that we interview, and to the executives that we interview, and lessons learned, and giving out good marketing tips.
Right.
But we've had a great time doing that, and getting the hardware. It just encourages us. It just encourages us. Thanks so much for that. This is a great thing.
Thank you to PRSA. That's the Public Relations Society of America.
That is. It is.
I want to thank them for acknowledging us. That was a great event and a great time.
Well, and if I acknowledge the hardware, I think I need to go to I think the reason we got this hardware has to be the intro. That intro, you guys did a great job, and I'm saying you guys because this is This is you. This is Skeet. Skeet Hanks, our one of our designers here,
right?
But is also a very accomplished musician.
Sure is.
In a band. Shout him out. The group and everything. Like this is we try to give them a lot of credit when we first rolled that out.
Yeah, you're talking about St. George and the Dragons. That's the name of the band. I had a great time working with Skeet. Pete and David, we hooked up, had a day at the studio and cranked out 4 different versions. So if you've been tuning in, you've been hearing a different assortment of it. We're going to start sprinkling them all about in 2025. So if you tune into the podcast, you'll get a taste of everything that we're doing. And we have a couple other versions we're going to sprinkle in throughout 2025. But you can hear me singing on the disco version.
Oh, if you listen.
Had some fun singing on that one. And that whole story was crazy, too, because I wasn't planning to sing on it. I just happened to be in the studio, and they needed a voice.
Yeah, but
and I had the voice.
Let's pause on that for a second, though, because you have the voice. Like you are not just a guy who runs the controls here. You actually have been trained for this kind of thing,
done some
too.
singing. Yeah, my first year in college, man, I was training to be a tenor, and that's my Jayhawker background. I went to KU, and my first year was I minored in tenor and vocal. And I had a great time doing that, but my path was a little different. I didn't see myself being an opera singer, but I had fun doing it. But definitely part of my musical background. But being able to apply that in the professional sense, working and that just happening, really thankful I work for EAG, and my summation of skills are coming together in the weirdest capacity. So
it's a guaranteed weirdest capacity. We'll just figure out, hey, what are you good at, and let's just randomly figure out how to work this in. It's a good time. Right. Well, we started out with a different intro, and it was an intro that kind of had a good feel to it. And the idea was, hey, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Let's put out a podcast. Let's not wait for every element to be there, and then we'll go back and we'll swap out the intros once we have some good music there. And it could not be happier with that. It
definitely
wanted to have our own very talented team take a run at that intro music, and not disappointed at all.
And now we're getting into business.
We're getting into your business.
Yeah.
If we keep moving on, let's start with tips, and then we get into features. And the tips, I read these marketing tips and I like them, but I may be too close to them to really give them some perspective. I think we're trying to give nuggets of wisdom out as we work with our clients and we talk to the business owners each week. So there's some inspiration there, because we're taking some of that inspiration from client conversations that we've had, or if we're talking to a prospect as a new potential client.
Right.
We'll hear kind of the things that they're hearing, the things that they're saying to us, and we'll say, that's a pretty good tip to throw out there. Just as an educational moment, let's throw it out there. Did you enjoy some, or were there some that you liked?
Pretty much going into my 3rd year working in an outsourced marketing agency, I'm still learning. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what I learn comes from those tips.
Oh, man.
I personally get a lot from just producing this podcast. So kudos to you and all of that. But a few of the tips, one of them, just a recent episode, the Michael Mackey episode.
Oh, yeah.
That is that sets the standard for brand standards.
Oh, yeah.
So the way that episode flows from the tip into the programming, talking with a person that is just a great brand strategist, a very informative show.
So, let's listen to that, Michael. Let's listen to that tip. Let's rehear a little bit of that.
Got it.
So basically, my job is to find really mindful, really strategic ways to shamelessly, blatantly promote someone without anyone knowing they're being shamelessly, blatantly promoted. So that is what I do day in and day out. And it's, if you would have asked me 2 years ago if I would have gotten to be really good at personal branding, I would have been like, you're nuts.
Right.
But then a funny thing happened. I realized that everybody has a story, and I am really good in writing in different people's voices. Like this morning, I worked on, this is just a for instance, this morning I worked on an architect, an author, and a cybersecurity expert. So that's a really...
That's broad. That's
a really rando mixed bag. And it's also very schizophrenic in that I have to write for so many different voices. But I will guarantee you there is no one out there who cannot benefit from some sort of nuanced or finessed personal branding. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so,
all right. And then another tip I like is episode 27 with Corey McCartney, the owner of AGA Productions and co-founder of Face KC. He gave us a great tip and a quote from the legendary Ollie Gates, the owner of Gates Barbecue. Mm-hmm. He mentioned a quote that he said, if you find a fork in the road, just take the fork.
Yes. What did you learn about Ollie Gates and or Kansas City Barbecue that the rest of the world should know?
You know, I ended that video with a quote from him, and that quote is what I learned. And it's basically his advice to the young people was, be your own man. If you find a fork in the road, just take the fork. and that resonated with me. You know, it's
Gotcha. Yeah, I would also throw one in. We did a tip one time about being a customer, like be your own customer, where we're saying, basically you need to experience your product like you are your own customer. And if you do that, if you kind of commit to doing that at least once a year, where you start over, and if there's an online process or if there's a checkout process or whatever that is, see if you can't experience what it's like to be your own customer. And that kind of grounds you in the business. So we'll listen to a little bit of that. The product doesn't change itself. The experience may have changed. The tip is this: on a routine basis, experience that product the way a first-time customer might experience the product. See what their experience. As an agency, we have the advantage because that's exactly what we're doing when we start working with a new client. We find out what it's like to experience that product for the first time. And so we can give you our advice because we're walking in with, from 50 miles away with a briefcase and saying, here's exactly what you need to do. But as the owner, as someone who sees the same thing every single day, you walk in the door the same way every single time. You see all of the different things and you become numb to it. You become blind. Any more tips that you've got? Any other fun things that we pulled out of there?
That ties into some of our best interview moments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we have a few of those. I know you mentioned the Ben Davis episode.
I did, yeah. Let's talk about some of these, because we interviewed some amazing people on this podcast. This is, and I'll just take a second to say that just some incredible entrepreneurs who have, and a lot of them, for some of the solopreneur kind of things, they started out in 2020 during a pandemic where they said, hey, here's a need. I'm going to focus on that. And they figured out how to make that happen. That's amazing. Other businesses have been much bigger and that comes with a different set of challenges to face and also opportunities. But we talked to each of them about that. And I think there was a great discussion with Ben Davis on the founder of the Gents Place, where he talked about the importance of cultivating that strong company culture. Let's listen to that. I want to pivot just a little bit and talk culture, because you have built culture very intentionally, and it really is something that's all encompassing. It's that set of values that drives what you do and who you attract to the business in terms of customers, but also in terms of employees. Give us a sense of why it was so important to make sure there was a culture that reflected your personal values and could help the organization grow.
So I came from the insurance business, which is now Goosehead Insurance, which was taken public by all my buddies from childhood that I recruited into the company. So I was the 5th employee there, grew it to about 150 people, and then I left to start the Gents Place. What I learned in the insurance business was we were in a commodity business. Everybody sold insurance. And we were selling auto and home insurance. This wasn't anything special or fancy. Mm-hmm. We were selling the same progressive policy as an independent agent as someone else. And we had to differentiate ourselves. And so the way that we did that is I created the client service department. I went down to UT Austin and attended an executive education class on the experiential economy. Mm-hmm. And I learned about Starbucks, what they did, and Disney and Nordstrom. And I came back and I helped implement a system that set us apart from a service standpoint. Well, along with that comes culture. Like that, you're a commodity for the consumer in that business. You're also a commodity as an employer for the employee. You're just any other insurance owner and insurance manager, right? So when I went into the high-end barber shop, we call it a barber and business club now. When I went into that business, I saw a lot of the same things. It's a haircut. How could we differentiate that? And so we did a good job differentiating it on the service menu and making it membership based and the facility and the bar and everything that went into it. But I knew that we had to differentiate ourselves as an employer. And so that began my journey on how do we do that, talking to our people. Hey, do you value health insurance? 401k? And so we started to implement these things really early on in the business. Like we put a matching 401k program in within the first year, and we were the very first company to do that, even when the team members didn't necessarily understand what a 401k was.
You also wanted to talk about Paul Sackett. Yes, so great quote. Great quote. Love that. You wanted to talk about Paul Sackett as well, because Paul was on Paul HR,
Your HR,
Your HR. He gave some great examples too, and brought the Chiefs into it.
Oh, definitely. He spoke about the change in culture there, and the changes that we've seen, and how it's not really about winning more, and not really about the way you win, but more or less how, and what they're doing to lead to that. He talks about the company culture. We can hear it here.
What I love to use is most of us that live here in the Kansas City area are very familiar with the Kansas City Chiefs.
I've heard of them. Yes,
You've heard of them, right?
Yes,
I think we won a couple Super Bowls. Anyway, I don't know how many people remember. I sure do. Living through the
Marty Schottenheimer era,
the Marty Schottenheimer, but the Paoli and Todd Haley era. You remember that from like 08 to 10 in there? Yep. And the culture within the Kansas City Chiefs was horrendous. In the office environment, Scott Pioli didn't create a very good office environment in the front office. I've heard lots of people that worked for the Chiefs. A lot of people became very disengaged. A lot of people left the organization. That's behind the scenes. That's not what even the product was out on the field.
Right.
And the Chiefs were a disaster. I think the last Todd Haley, they fired him before the season was even over. And then then all of a sudden, we bring in Andy Reid. And then Andy Reid comes in, we bring in a new GM, and the culture of the organization is completely different, which attributes to their winning as much as what it was when they were losing.
Yeah.
And so that culture, and I talk to people that I know that work in the back offices with the Chiefs. They're so engaged. They're so fired up about the organization. It's just such a different environment. So even the vendors, the folks that take care of the equipment, the marketing folks, the whole behind the office scene is completely different, which is supporting the winning culture on the field.
And you're not claiming that you wrote or produced Ted Lasso. You're just saying the message is right and that culture is really important. And if we believe, we're going to do that.
I love Ted Lasso. There's so many,
Man, thanks, Paul. Yeah, that's solid. Let me turn it a little bit and again talk about some of your work that you had to do, because we did a remote recording. We did an on-site recording.
Yeah.
Where you took, we did a road show. Took all of the portable equipment for podcasting, and we said, "Hey, we're going to go into a restaurant and let's see how your audio production skills go with that." Spectacular episode as always. No hill for a stepper, as they say, and you crushed it. Yeah, talk a little bit about that remote session that we did.
Hey, one of my favorite people, Shanita McAfee Bryant, the owner of The Prospect, KC, great establishment and business. If you're in the culinary and you want to learn the background of that, look her up, check it out, or just tune into our episode, and you'll hear more about what they're doing there. But that was fun.
And let me say, the breakfast, that was worth the trip right there. Let's listen. Talk to us about the food apartheid side of things.
So apartheid speaks to systems, right? Desert speaks to it's a term that people get to use. It's like, for example, when you look at photos of the civil rights movement, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all in black and white. Well, that's because they want you to perceive. That was a long time ago.
Gotcha.
My grandparents and my parents were born at that time. I have colored pictures of them. So I know they had colored film
right.
during that time frame.
That was possible, but...
Same thing with a desert, right? Mm-hmm. When you say desert, it's like, oh, what could we possibly do about this?
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing.
Okay.
When you speak to apartheid, we know that particularly when we get to the east side of Kansas City, this financial disinvestment was intentional, right? Mm-hmm. So when we just say, let's just call it what it is.
Call it what it is.
We are in this situation because of intentionality by people who did not live in the neighborhood and really wanted it to be the way that it is. That's why I'm more of an apartheid girly.
And part of that. Oh, that was a good time. I'm hungry again. We also talked a lot about balancing work and personal life. Great conversation with a few people. Ben Davis was one of those. in kind of balancing your professional and personal responsibilities, especially when working with a spouse. You're focused on marriage and business. You threw that out there, in your description of the other traps of like, you're married, you've got a family, you've got other things to think about. You're talking about the role of your spouse in the business and everything that they bring to the table, but also the boundaries that you need to set up to keep things very happy and to keep you centered as a couple first and foremost. Describe what you're trying to do in that season 2 topic.
Yeah. So when you're an entrepreneur, you have a significant other in most cases, whether it's someone that you're married to or girlfriend or boyfriend. But what I realize is that everybody has this unique relationship with their, in this case, season 2 was you're actually married with your spouse. Some of these relationships were my spouse and I work the business together all day, every day, and we've been doing it for 10 or 15 years. Others is like polar opposite. Like she doesn't even know what I do.
Yeah.
And there's like everything in between. And so I was just fascinated with you're married, and my wife and I have been together since we were 16 years old. You're married running a business. Like, how do you guys make that work? And I specifically interviewed people who had not been divorced.
Right.
Which is, it's like there's nothing against being divorced, but I wanted to interview someone. They're like, you made it work. You made the business work.
Yeah.
You made marriage work. And so I think what you'll find in season 2 is just, it's kind of looking at the same, it's not an issue. It's just a reality. The same reality of being married and owning your business from like a 360-degree view. And there were some opposing views from show to show. Like I tell my spouse everything to I tell my spouse only what he or she needs to know.
Right. And your own story comes out as part of this season. And I've enjoyed listening to that as well, where you've had to fire your spouse. Like that was a moment. That was a thing that happened. And yet you're still, 1, alive. 2, thriving, and you're still going strong. Let's move along to Leslie Kohlmeyer. She's the executive director of Show Me KC Schools, building community partnerships to enhance organizational impact and really driving community engagement. Her approach to that, I think, really kind of shows that entrepreneurial spirit. At work, even though it's a different kind of organization, a nonprofit. It's the way you think about a problem, right? It's the way you approach a problem and how you can figure out to overcome that in any way. So let's talk to Leslie.
I said, "Hey, how's it going? how are things?"
I mean, there's a lot of nuance to that question, but I think for us, it's going really well. We can look at a system every day. As a person who runs a nonprofit, I have to ask myself, is what I'm doing making a difference? And I can look at that 6-year pathway and say, we actually have made a difference. Even in something as small as like KCPS is not a part of the app, but they have changed their deadline and their application process to be very similar to ours. And so we have now 2 systems instead of 22.
Right.
And those 2 systems work very similarly. So again, we've changed a system. And so I will say it's going well for us because we've changed something and made it easier for all the parents in Kansas City.
You have no end.
Oh, thanks. We'll hear from Leslie again. I know we're going to hear from Leslie again in the lightning round questions that we want to hit again as we end this show. And interviews are great. We learned a lot about the companies. We learned a lot about the business itself. But there's so much personality that goes into running that business or being the executive director of that nonprofit or what have you, that it really is difficult to divorce that from the person and the personality that comes with it. And the way that we get into those personality questions is with something we call the lightning round. And if we talk about the lightning round just for a second, there's not much lightning about the lightning round. We may spend more time answering questions in the lightning round than we do in the main portion of the show.
Right.
But what are you going to do? It's a good concept. I think it tells us who that person is, right? It helps us understand where they're coming from. It gives us a little more background about who they are. They don't know what we're going to ask. They don't know what we're going to talk about. Like you can be sure that if we're doing a podcast recording with a business owner, especially if they have their own PR team that they're bringing in with them, we've talked about some of these questions in advance. They know we're going to ask about, tell us about the business, right? They know that. And if they have something cool that's going on, like an event or something, they know we're going to ask about that. In the lightning round, all of that changes. We never tell anybody what they're going to be asked in the lightning round. And some really wonderful, surprising moments happen in that. Very amazing bits of wisdom about very random subjects. And the one I'm going to start with is all about, like, I looked online and saw on LinkedIn that Vicky Kulikov has a top voice that she listens to in her LinkedIn feed, and it was Snoop Dogg. And you just have to ask, right? And the answer was more than I could ever have hoped for. So let's listen in on that one. On your LinkedIn profile, I noticed that in your interests section, you have 3 people that you follow. One is a TED Talk presenter with 5 million followers. You follow a Gen Z influencer. And Snoop Dogg, CEO of Death Row Records. Talk to me for a minute about Snoop. Is it the songs, or was it his early work with Dre? What is it that draws you to Snoop Dogg?
That's hilarious. I didn't even remember that would have been on there, but
you hit like one time,
right,
and that's it.
That's
man.
So funny.
He's your top 3.
I think he's pretty amazing. I just love the way he has evolved as he's matured.
Oh yeah.
So the breadth and scope of the work that he's done through his career, and then his ability to connect with people that you would never think he would connect with. Mm-hmm. That is inspiring to me. So I love that about him. I love, that he has that partnership with Martha Stewart. I don't really know what's going on with that anymore, but he's somebody that exudes charisma and energy, and people seem to like him a lot.
Oh yeah.
So I just think he's a really interesting example of somebody who's able to connect with all kinds of people in the world. And I appreciate that about him. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was his recent thing that he did with solo stoves, the smokeless campfire stove kind of thing, where, at the end of the first week, he was like, I'm giving up smoke, and, please respect my privacy.
Oh,
and
so that was all.
The next week, yeah. You can't have him give up smoke. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. We wouldn't know what kind of world we lived in if that were the case. Yeah. So the next week he announced, this partnership kind of thing, this pitchman thing with solo smokeless stoves.
I never knew what the actual
influencers,
what that was all about. I mean, I saw the post, but then I never followed it. But the other thing about him that I find fascinating is just that he is somebody that is on the edge, edgy. Obviously he's very. Everybody knows about his smoking and all of that, and that's who he is. And yet he's able to build those bridges with people who probably aren't doing those things he's doing, but they still respect him for the human being that he is and the businessman that he is. So I really love seeing that he can build those bridges, and that there are, that you don't always have to have the same interests in life to be able to connect with people. Yeah. And I love that about him. So there's a lot of, he's really, an interesting person to follow.
It's a good discussion on Snoop Dogg. Anytime we can do that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wisdom is what that is. That's just wisdom.
Big Snoop Dogg.
There's nothing wrong with that answer whatsoever.
Right.
We also talk about food though.
Yeah.
And in food, so have you heard, like, I don't know why I ask about food so much. Apparently, I love it. But we do ask about food, and we heard some good stuff. Do you remember any of the things that we talked about with food for people?
I remember a conversation about sous vide.
Yeah, with Paul Sackett.
Right,
Paul Sackett with sous vide.
Sure, yeah, let's check that out.
No way, like we knew we were going to talk about your HR. We knew we were going to talk about HR issues. We have no way to know what we're going to talk about here. I hope you're ready for that.
I'm ready.
Set? Okay, here we go. I want to talk about sous vide for a second. I'm going to ask you the things that you've made using sous vide, but before I do that, little background for our entrepreneur friends at home. Sous vide, amazing tool in the kitchen, tremendous control. You vacuum seal your food with some spices and some healthy or unhealthy fats. You submerge that in a water bath with an immersion circulator that has very precise heat control. So you're setting time and temperature. It will never overcook. You're taking turkey that you cook, and you cook that to 165 degrees internal temperature. But you do that for like 30 seconds, and you've killed all the bad bacteria. But if you cook a turkey at, say, 3 hours for 138 degrees, you'll get a better result. It'll be a better turkey. Plus, it kills all the bacteria to a log 7 standard. So what are you cooking in a sous vide machine? What have you done with sous vide?
So I think one thing that people they think it's all just steaks or meat or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think it's amazing for carrots, mashed potatoes. Those are my two probably favorite vegetables.
Okay.
And carrots are amazing because if you steam carrots or you boil carrots, it really takes a lot of the flavor out. But when you sous vide it, and then all you have to do is throw them in a...
Indeed. And cheese. Cheese came up more than once, I'm sure.
Few cheese things.
There are a few cheese things that came up.
Yep.
I'm glad I got to watch that. Do you have a favorite cheese?
Oh, of course, Gouda.
Is it? Well, that's...
Absolutely. Did you see how easy that rolled off my tongue?
You were ready for it. You were... And again...
Bree's a close second.
No previous knowledge of this.
Nope.
She was ready to go
Gouda.
with Gouda.
I'm totally a cheese girl.
And we actually talked about that. I imagine that the biggest cultural shock would have been Provel cheese, but that could be different. The cheese that goes on St. Louis style pizzas. I thought that would be it. It was. I don't personally understand it, but I get it.
So you don't like emo stuff.
And then we also had a deep philosophical discussion about what is a sandwich with J.K. Kirst. We wanted to make sure we talk about him a little bit. What is a sandwich? All right. Lightning round starts with this question.
Oh, boy.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh, is a hot dog a sandwich? I'm going to say no.
Not a sandwich.
Not a sandwich.
I'm going to follow that up with, is a taco a sandwich?
I'm gonna stick to my guns here and say no. It's not a sandwich.
It makes me ask the question: how do you define a sandwich then? If a hot dog is not, because we've got bread and meat. If a taco, you've got a flour tortilla as the delivery device and a bunch of guts to that taco.
A limited definition of a sandwich, is I just think of bread, and for some reason, like lunch meat, as I would call it. Your Subway, your Good Sense, all your. And I'm getting kicked. Do we have sponsors, Jeff?
No,
I can mention.
No,
okay.
you can talk.
I can mention anyone, but that's what I think of as a sandwich: is the classic lunch meat sandwich.
Got it. You are a strict construction. Authors may disagree about this. The historians are still unclear about what a sandwich is. There's so many possibilities here. We asked a question. We got a hot tip from somebody, a different person we've had as a featured guest. Right. Saw that we had on the schedule coming up a different person, and we said, hey, what questions would you ask her? And we talked about. She said without question. She said you need to ask if she were a Golden Girl, which Golden Girl would she be? And do you remember that one? Do you remember who we were talking to?
I definitely remember that. I was with Coquithia.
Yeah. So
if
you were a Golden Girl, which Golden Girl would you be? She was excited for that question.
Let's hear it here.
Here's the next question. If you were a Golden Girl.
Oh, I love the Golden Girls.
Which Golden Girl would you be and why?
Do not judge me, but I would be Blanche. I love Blanche. I think Blanche is self-confident. Blanche goes for what she wants. She's unapologetic in who she is. I love the Golden Girls. And if I was not going to be Blanche, I would be Sophia. Because Sophia tells really great jokes. She does slick digs. She's wise. So, yes, I'm a Golden Girl fan. Somebody must have told you.
I'm not saying Leslie Kohlmeyer helped with this question at all, but that may be the best question ever. I like the idea of Sophia as well because, you can say whatever you want to somebody, and you still have the charisma not to get punched.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah. What you want to move on to a different topic?
the celebrating the big wins.
Oh, I do. Yeah, we do ask that question quite a bit.
we ask that question.
That's a recurring question
Yeah,
for
we've
us.
got a few.
How do you celebrate a big win? And I think when we've positioned this question, it's anything from my son or daughter did amazing on a test,
right,
to we just had this merger go through, or we just won a big piece of business, or great sales day, or something like that. And there's some variability in how people celebrate a big win.
Yeah, let's share a few of them right here.
How do you celebrate a big win?
I would first thing, it's kind of like Andy Reid style. I go and find a big cheeseburger.
I'm so excited to hear that. Quite honestly, I would do that too.
I love to head. Where's the best cheeseburger spot in the area? Right here, I would head down to Town Topic. You know what I mean? And so
I also like the way that you localize those results. So that, like, wherever I'm at, there's got to be a cheeseburger.
There's got to be a good one somewhere.
Do you have a favorite? Let's imagine that something exciting happened and big win for Show Me Casey Schools, or a personal one, whatever. How do you celebrate that?
Again, with the patchwork and everything that happened to me becoming a part of who I am, I will give mad credit to my previous ED, Trisha Johnson, who doesn't just celebrate the big wins, but who celebrated every little win along the way by giving you a nice handwritten note that you had done something great, a vase of flowers, a gift card to your favorite restaurant, whatever the case may be. Like, I tried with my staff to both verbally thank them for everything that they do, or to take them out to lunch, or to say, hey, this is a hard day. Let's, order in or have a glass of wine, whatever the case.
How you celebrate a big win, what you do to celebrate a big win. And that can be a personal kind of thing. It could be a personal goal, or it could be a family achievement, or a work achievement where you've just trained 100,000 people on some amazing thing, and it's great.
I mean, I think what's interesting about me is, you do all these assessments in my work. So Strengths Finder is one of those Clifton strengths. And one of mine is Maximizer, which is, good isn't good enough. And, you sort of need to, status quo isn't okay. And you sort of got to always be one notch up. So sometimes I think I struggle a little bit with celebrating, like, hey, we accomplished that and that was great and awesome. And that's great. You know, I think sometimes I'm always thinking like, ooh, we could have just
that was good, but
next time. And so I've learned that as a leader that you have to sometimes catch myself and go, you know what, Jake, that was great. You did, that was good. It doesn't always have to be over the top. So I would say, learning my own self-awareness that like stop, celebrate, enjoy, be proud of an accomplishment. On the personal level, for me, it's.
I'm tempted to celebrate a big win right now. That would like in several of those ways. How do you celebrate a big win?
I think you can. Today, you might want to go check out the Yum Yards episode to find out about that.
That's the Yum Yards episode. It's a good way to do it. There's also a kind of a time travel question we asked that isn't exactly a time travel question. That's advice you would give to first year in business you, that if you are if you could travel back in time knowing everything you know now, what would you tell you in the first year of your business? And solid advice that I think any of us can take away at any time. Let's listen in.
Got you covered.
What advice would you give the year one in business you? Like, if you could go back and talk to yourself in as you were just starting the company, you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to go do this on my own. I'm going to start this business." What advice would you give yourself back then if you could travel through time?
Ooh, I think I would say don't stop. And not that I did stop, but just when you do have those clients come in and everything, keep on the momentum versus okay, I need to fix all my business systems and slow down a bit and do all this first before I take the next step. No, just keep going because that stuff will come, And especially as you get more income and you get more clients and just being out there more, people are willing to be a little bit more forgiving about those things if you produce great content or in my space, if you produce great quality. And maybe you don't have those back end things, but you're still giving them the results. Might not have everything together. You might not have like your invoicing, all perfect and all that stuff. Don't focus on those things so much that you lose like what you're good at, because you can outsource those things once you get to a certain point. And so I think I was like so focused on that. Like,
great advice. There's one clip. Maybe we end on this one. Maybe we can kind of wrap this all up this way. We asked people if they had the power to change the world.
Ooh, yeah.
How would they change the world?
Good one.
What would they do? Let's listen. If I give you the power to change the world in some way, to make it a better place, I don't know what that means to you, but what would you do to make the world a better place? And I'm going to give you some power here. Like we could take away some kind of stigma. You could, change absolutely anything. What would you do to make the world a better place?
Oh, I think if I could do anything to make the world a better place, I'd like to have people not be as polarized.
Oh yeah.
I would. I don't know how I would do that, but if I could, if you're saying I had magic powers,
you have magic powers.
I hate that. People are so strongly opinionated one way or another.
I'm going to give you the power to change the world in this last question of the lightning round. Give you the power to change the world, to make it a better place. How would you do that? Would you change something about the way that people act, or a thing, or introducing something new? How do you change the world to make it a better place?
Wow. Whew.
You've never had this much power before, but now that you do.
That's hard. I've been somebody that's been involved for many, many years in interfaith work, and always really believed in, again, that building of bridges and the importance of bringing people together. And it would probably, if I had the power, it would be something around that, which I think would be super beneficial for the time that we're in today. And I don't know what that would look like.
You don't have to have all the things.
I don't have to all figure it out.
You don't have to have it figured out.
Okay. Well, I'll let you know. I'll come back to you with the full plan.
You don't have to have a plan right now.
Oh,
but if you could snap your fingers, that's what we're after.
Okay.
Good answer. I like that.
Thanks,
that's worthwhile. That's very much worthwhile.
Thank you.
You've survived the lightning round. Well done. We're out of that. And so great answers. Thank you. For I kind of want to give them the power to change the world at this point, right?
Right.
This would be a better place.
Right.
Solid lightning round clips. Hey, before we close this episode out, a couple things, right? First, let's talk about what we have planned for 2025.
Yeah.
There are a few things. One, caliber of guests, right?
Yes.
We want to keep talking to amazing entrepreneurs. We've talked to so many great entrepreneurs so far. Let's keep going with that.
Yeah.
Let's keep getting great entrepreneurs.
Right.
Another thing that I know I want to do, we're going to take some of those great tips that you've seen before the featured guest, and we're going to take a few of those, and we're going to do some visual things with that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
I'm excited about that.
That's going to be fun.
And then let's see. Anything else for 2025 that you want to focus on? You want to?
We're going to keep rotating these intros, man. We're going to have some fun making a couple different styles, a couple different genres. We've got the cowpunk version, we've got the hard rock version, we've got the country version, and we've got the
disco.
The disco.
Yeah.
So we're banging out a few different intros. We're just going to keep having fun with that process, and we've got a few different styles coming up. With that being said,
oh yeah, you've got something special. You have a gift. You have a holiday gift.
We've got a holiday version for you guys to tune in right now, featuring the EAG Carolers. I don't know what are we going to call ourselves.
I'm not part of this. I can't carol. If you gave me a bucket of carol, I couldn't carry it. I don't know.
We get into your business, we get into your business, we get into your business for a thriving new year. Good findings we bring to new ad campaigns. We get into your business for a thriving new year. We're talking leads and traffic, Storytelling magic with guests so dynamic. You'll love what you hear. Good tidings we bring to you and your biz. Let's get into your business for a thriving new year. We get into your business, we get into your business, we get into your business for a thriving new year. We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, so trust us with your business for a happy new year.
All right, and that is our show. Thank you for an amazing year of podcast. We've loved learning about the great entrepreneurs and business leaders we've talked to this year. More of that in 2025. And thank you for listening to the Small Business Miracles podcast. Remember to subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Drop us a line on the website at eagadv.com if you have any thoughts. Until then, we'll be out here helping entrepreneurs with another Small Business Miracle.
We get into your business, we get into your business, we get into your business for a thriving new year. Good findings we bring to new ad campaigns. We get into your business for a thriving new year. We're talking leads and traffic, storytelling magic with guests so dynamic. You'll love what you hear. Good tidings we bring to you and your biz. Let's get into your business for a thriving new year. We get into your business, we get into your business, we get into your business for a thriving new year. We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, so trust us with your business for a happy